Good morning and welcome to the Lynne Hayes-Freeland Show. I'm just practicing how to pronounce my guest name here this morning. Wait till you see some of the things we're going to talk about. I'm so excited about today's show. A little bit later in the program, we're going to meet some of the people who have been behind the protests going on at Pizza Milano. It's a controversial issue. We're going to talk about that later in the show. But we begin, however, with an amazing event coming up on the 11th of February. It is the Afro-American Memorabilia Cultural Show and Sale. Here to talk about it, two individuals, two perspectives. I'll try to get this right. Baruch, close, not
close
quite.
Enough.
Tell me again.
Baruch
Hyman, and he is the owner and operator of Crown Antiques and Collectibles, and one of my favorite guests, Dr. Larry Glasgow from the University of Pittsburgh. And if there's anything about Pittsburgh history, this man knows it. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
So, Mr. Hyman, talk to me a little bit about this sale. I understand this is the first time you and I have met today, but I understand that this started as a personal interest, just collecting history, collecting antiques, and has blossomed into an enterprise.
Well, I started collecting back from about the time I could talk and walk. And then in 1968, my father started collecting a new category of things, political buttons, and we just started to support the new habits. We started doing antique shows and flea markets, and then when I moved to Pittsburgh, I had a store on Murray Avenue, and I was there for 7 years, and then I looked for a nice, bigger place. I moved into a big place down on Fifth Avenue, a block from Pizza Milano's. Right across from the box office of the PPG Paints Arena. And it's stuffed with stuff. And one of the big things that I collect and have for sale is Black Americana, and it's one of the things I'm interested in. And I've been trying for years to put together a show to bring in other people and bring in other things to show it off to the community. And so we're starting this year, finally, in a smaller way, and I think hopefully in future years we'll do it every year, I hope, and it'll get bigger and better, and but we have to start somewhere.
Absolutely, and we're going to take a look at some of the things that people can see. But Dr. Glasgow, I want to bring you into this conversation now, because when we talk about, in particular, African American memorabilia, has that always been viewed as collectible? Have we really paid attention to our history in the way that we should?
Not in the way that we should. It's become, in the last 20, 30 years, black collectors are really scouring the land for things that relate to black history. So it's really picked up. The prices are going up. The whole idea of collectibles. Museums are now featuring items, material, culture that relates to the black experience. We're really doing, even in archaeological work, when they did the Crawford Roberts housing, they did a major archaeological dig there, and they uncovered all sorts of things that were related to the lower hill, the free black community, to slavery, and all that stuff came up. So it's really grown, the number of items that are available, and the interest has really grown.
No kidding. Okay, I want to tell you, you have so many things that I want to talk about. I don't even know if we'll have time for all of this. But let's start with the photograph, the picture on the easel we have over here. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, that was a picture that was from World War I era, and it's showing that black soldiers did go into the army, and that they participated in all the things in America like everybody else, because there was a perception that black people just didn't go into the army.
Right. Similar,
there was a perception that Jewish people didn't go into the army. But per capita, there were more Jews in the army than there were any other race.
And Larry, then this is a perfect example of what we're talking about, because Mr. Hyman is right. There is a perception in many communities that we were not a part of World War I.
That's right. That's the value of these objects, these items. It brings it to people's attention in a way that you can talk about it forever, and somehow it doesn't sink into people's consciousness like if they can really see and hold and get close to an actual object from that time period. That's a beautiful example of the way you can evoke a period, an era. The fact that there were posters made like that shows how important it was to the black community at the time, how much they did value that.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about a couple of things that we have in front of us on the table. The first two, are those salt and pepper shakers?
Those are salt and pepper shakers.
Okay.
And there are probably maybe 100 different black salt and pepper shakers that somebody could collect. So it's a very and they're not very expensive, and they're a very important collectible. A lot of people like all kinds of figurines and knickknacks and things like that.
And they say some people just collect salt and pepper shakers.
And some people just collect salt and pepper shakers.
Okay, all right.
You know, these were actually a little bit scarcer ones. I don't know if I should move it.
No,
but,
we'll leave, don't move it. But there is something on the front of
Because
it.
there's decorations on the front of them. It's more than just the plain, simple ones. It's a little bit scarcer than just the simple ones.
We're going to have to take a break very quickly, but I want to just bring you in again, Larry, because when I look at these salt and pepper shakers and I look at the complexion of their faces, I am guessing that because they are so deeply, darkly colored, that for some in the black community, that would have been a reason not to collect collectibles.
There's been long and ambivalent attitude about these sorts of items in the black community because they were created at a time of, well, racism. Let's say they depict blacks in stereotype costumes, stereotype positions. The blackness of the coloring was part of it. Was sort of making fun of blacks, if you will. But now, with the rise of black pride, people look at it differently. As the situation of blacks changes, we have a black president, now you can look back at things and say, well, it is about me, I want to have it.
I want to have it, right.
That's been a big shift.
And it is a part of history no matter what. Whether you like the history or you don't like the history,
it is a part of
it's part of the history. We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some more items, give folks the specifics on how they can come out on the 11th of February. We got so much to do. Stick around. We'll be right back.